You're good to go.
All right. Welcome to the Eephus, episode 40. We're recording this on Labor Day. So while you're out there all, enjoying your Labor Day weekend, having days off, we're here grinding, busting out episodes for you. And it's episode 40, no less, the big episode. It seems like we've been doing this for a little while now, so it's good that we have the number 40. Like, that's a big accomplishment, I feel like. Every 10 episodes, I feel like, is an accomplishment. We've reached number 40. So, Zach, how you feel about that?
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely impressive that we've kept it up through the doldrums of, some weeks have way more news than other weeks, but we found a way to
Yeah.
hopefully make it interesting for the listeners. And like you said, it's Labor Day and we're here recording, so no days off.
I don't think have we missed any weeks this season? If we have, it's only been one or
I
two. I
don't
mean,
think
we've
so.
been going hard all season long, and you know how baseball season is, 162 games. Of course, we only do it once a week, but I mean, it's a grind. It's a grind of a season, not just for baseball players. It is for podcasters too. So there should be like a podcaster appreciation day.
For sure.
So we'll go off of that into, as always, our favorite stories. I'll start with this one. It's real quick. Keon Broxton with that walk-off homer. It would have been a walk-off homer. He robbed it. Actually, I think it was top of the ninth, so it wouldn't have been a walk-off. It would have been a game go-ahead homer. Either way, that was the highlight of the week for sure. So that's my favorite story. Of course, though, we had bigger stories, bigger impact stories. That's what you got here. What was your favorite story?
Yeah, that Broxton catch was unreal. He's definitely one of the best defensive center fielders in the game. Mine's more of a general take. It's just it puts your thoughts back into humanity, your positive thoughts when you see all these MLB players donating to the Hurricane Harvey down in Houston. Just to mention a few, Mike Trout, donated his number, 27,000, which is great. And Matt Carpenter, I know, was donating, I think it was like $4,000 to $5,000 per home run. So that's great. And obviously there's a bunch of other players doing it, but I just think it's great how everyone sort of rallies around, a town, a city, a good sports town with a great baseball team right now. So I just thought it was good to see that.
Absolutely. Anytime you see athletes actually doing that type of stuff with their money, every athlete should be doing it. They make enough where it's like you gotta, give back in some sort of way. This is the one occasion where I don't mind athletes going all over social media being like, hey, look, I'm doing a good thing, because it's good to see that they're actually going out and doing it. Like, for example, JJ Watt. I know this is a baseball podcast, but we got to bring up JJ Watt for a second. For this hurricane, the guy raised almost $10 million. And he also shared that picture. I mean, people give JJ Watt shit because he can do no wrong, but the guy donated so much water, so much money to these people. You can make fun of a guy for putting himself out there a lot in like a manner that makes him look good all the time. You can't make fun of him for this. This is just fucking awesome. What he did, what a lot of baseball players did. So shout out to those people. It's awesome that people contributed that much. So we'll move on back into baseball talk. Injuries, thankfully, we didn't have a lot of them this week, but we did have one to Adrian Beltre, who that's one guy no one likes to see go down. I think it was a season ender, potentially. Hamstring. I don't know if he tore something, strained something. I don't have the diagnosis in front of me or anything. I just know he's out for a month, which we know with the Rangers probably means out for the year because they're not going to make it into the postseason. So Adrian Beltre out.
Yeah. I hope this isn't the end of Adrian Beltre. I don't think it would be, just because he's been unreal this season, but I hope this isn't sort of the start of a bigger issue.
Right.
And then it sees him sort of retire early, because he's still got some gas in the tank for sure.
Yeah, he's just getting up there in age. So hopefully, like you said, he's not getting to that breaking down point. We haven't seen that point with Adrian Beltre. I mean, he's had some nagging injuries in the past, but he always bounces back. Hamstring's the type of thing. I mean, we saw that too with Ken Griffey Jr. Ken Griffey Jr. had like when you think of nagging hamstrings, that was basically Ken Griffey Jr.'s career. That's what derailed him when he went to the Reds. And he was like the talk of baseball up until then, and just a hamstring derailed his career. With Beltre being at the age he's at, it almost seemed unbelievable that he was putting up these type of numbers. Maybe we'll see him fall back to earth next season. Who knows? But either way, like I said, Adrian Beltre, the last guy you want to see exit with an injury. But we do have some good news on the injury front. We got two of baseball's best players especially on two teams that are going to make runs in the postseason on the Dodgers and the Astros. First, we'll start with Clayton Kershaw, finally back from that back injury. And he came back and it looked like he was not phased in the slightest. He came back, pitched an absolute gem, classic Clayton Kershaw fashion. So Kershaw's back as if the Dodgers needed another impact player to come back.
Yeah, for sure. They've been struggling a little bit lately, so I think he's coming back right at the right time. And I think part of the reason is if they really needed him, if they were in like the middle of a close race, he definitely could have pitched maybe a week or two ago. But since they had such a big lead, I think they were cautious and let him recover fully. But yeah, he looked like the old Kershaw. Given I think it was versus the Padres, so you obviously have to take that with a grain of salt. But it's good to see him back, and hopefully he can do it in the playoffs this year. That's kind of the last shoe to drop with his career, if he can do it in the postseason.
The Dodgers dropped, I think, 5 straight at one point. They got swept by the Diamondbacks, which was a pretty interesting series. Those are two teams that can face off in the NLDS, so keep an eye on that matchup because that's a very interesting matchup right now. The Diamondbacks are red hot. I think they've won 9 straight, if I'm not mistaken.
10.
So 10 now, Jesus Christ. So Diamondbacks are getting hot at the right time. That doesn't bode well for our Rockies either. So we'll get to that in a little bit. But yeah, not good. The Dodgers, like you said, with Kershaw was against the Padres. So take it with a grain of salt. Kershaw owns the Padres every time he takes the mound against them. I'm interested to see how he does as we enter the postseason. That'll be when I really have my eye on the Dodgers because it's all about how you enter the postseason, the momentum heading into the postseason. How can you carry it over? And the Dodgers they're the chokers of the postseason. So let's see how they carry that momentum in, see if anything changes. Carlos Correa back for the Astros. The Astros have been a completely different second half team than they were in the first half. First half, you can make the argument that they were the best team in baseball. You can't make that argument in the second half. But with Correa back, that's the kind of guy who can take your team to the next step, take your team to the next level, get back on a hot streak, gain that momentum going into the postseason. I said last week, I think I might be more worried about the Astros than the Indians. Obviously, I mean, with the events that transpired in the past week, that opinion might have changed. Well, with Correa back, Astros are a little bit scarier.
Yeah, I think it just hammers home the point that the Astros offense is going to be, wicked tough to deal with in the playoffs. But again, it's the big question mark is their starting pitching. Keuchel, if he can get back to Cy Young caliber. After Keuchel, it looks pretty grim, to be totally honest, in the bullpen and the rotation. So I don't know who starts game 2 for them. Is it Colin McHugh?
Verlander?
I don't know. Verlander now. Yeah.
Yeah. So we'll get to the Verlander trade in a little, but I mean, between Verlander, McCullers, and Colin McHugh, they're going to need some guys to step up big time in that number 2 because Verlander hasn't been Verlander this season. So that's another question mark right there. Again, we'll get to more Verlander talk in a bit. We'll start with some news over the past week in baseball. I think one of the weirdest things is just what's going on with the Royals. You got Danny Duffy arrested for DUI, which is an event in itself. I mean, Danny Duffy is one of their top pitchers, if not their top pitcher. So Danny Duffy, DUI, that's like a normal thing, though. It's not like a shocking thing to see a player arrested for DUI. They'll bounce back from it. It's just like a roadblock, I guess you could say. Then you had the scoreless streak going on at the same time. I think it was like 50-plus innings without a run. So they finally broke that scoreless streak, thank God, but that severely hurt their wild card chances. I don't know if they're really in the running at this point anymore. Maybe if they make a run in September. And then you got the GM, who just during the scoreless streak, after the Danny Duffy DUI, the guy just goes on a tirade against porn, which just put the icing on the cake. So what are your thoughts on the whole Royals saga?
Yeah, I think correct me if I'm wrong, but he passed out right in his car at like a Burger King. That's what the story was. I mean,
been there, done that.
Yeah, been there, done that. Been there, done that. So I can't really fault the guy, but he also is in the public spotlight. So
right. It
is a shitty situation. I'm going to be honest. At least he was driving at some point, but at least he was smart enough to just sort of pass out.
Right.
I was high. I think we're going to do our power rankings later on in the show. And last time we did it, I had the Royals in the top 5. Like they were hot. Yep. They were on a roll. They looked like the Royals that, were a postseason giant the last couple of years. They're definitely breaking down. They're done, as you said. Danny Duffy arguably has been their best pitcher this year. So it is a big loss. Jason Vargas has gone downhill. He's kind of gone back to what he's been his whole career. And the GM, it seems like they're having, maybe behind the scenes, they're having a lot more issues than they're putting on in terms of players going out and partying. I mean, the GM's talking about porn usage. So that doesn't just come out of the blue to me. There was definitely an episode where someone was like caught watching porn or jacking off in the clubhouse. So things are getting weird with the Royals. Like, let's get weird. It's one of those things.
Let's get weird is right. It's been a weird ass week in baseball all around. A few of these topics are just straight up fucking weird. It's been a weird week. One more thing on the Royals. You mentioned the whole porn thing. Why do baseball why would they feel the need to just jack off? I actually kind of believe your theory about like this clubhouse incident that must have gone on, because no one just says porn's a problem unless porn is a fucking problem. Exactly. So with this guy, I think everyone's judging the GM like, oh no, porn's not a problem. No, he had a reason to say that. Something happened.
That was a shot at the players. Like, I know what you're doing. Stop doing it.
Like, are all the players just like jacking off? Like is there like a big like thing going on in the clubhouse? Is this a big issue with the Royals? I don't know, but it's weird.
Hopefully it doesn't come out like the Red Sox were drinking beer and eating chicken. The Royals were just jacking off. That's why they lost focus.
Yeah. Oh my God. The 2017 Kansas City Royals, they just couldn't stop jacking off. That cost them a postseason run.
Yeah.
I don't know. The Marlins too. I mean, we talked about them last week as the team that could compete, sneak up and get that NL wild card. They've kind of come back to earth over the past week. Giancarlo Stanton hasn't come back to earth, but the Marlins have. But with the Marlins, and Giancarlo Stanton, what is with this music video he was in? I guess the fact, if anyone's going to be in this type of music video, any baseball player, I guess you would handpick Stanton as the guy to be in it. You have this, I think her name's Lexi Pantera or something. She's like a famous like twerker or something on YouTube. I don't know. She like does a bunch of shit. She loves showing off her ass and stuff. So all the power to her. She did that again in this music video with Giancarlo Stanton. Giancarlo Stanton is just in a bed. That was his role in this music video. He just laid down in a bed, and this Lexi Pantera, pretty hot by the way, just gets in like a thong, and she's just all over him and just riding him and shit. It was a little racy music video. I didn't hate it. I mean, if you're Giancarlo Stanton, you take that offer to be in that music video 10 times out of 10. I don't blame Stanton for being in it. Just thought, again, it's just a weird ass week, dude. It's just been a weird week in baseball.
Yeah, and like to the Royals' point, Stanton does this video and he's hitting like 80 the last 7 days. So I think these guys are frustrated. Like, a lot of stuff's pent up, and they're just ready for the season to end, and they don't care what they're doing at this point. Yeah. And the music video, I mean, if it wasn't Giancarlo Stanton in that, if there was any other dude, I mean, that's one of the raciest music videos I've seen in a while. Like,
you don't see music videos like that anymore.
No. Are those two dating? Do you know?
I don't think so. Like, not that I know of. I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if Stanton like made some sort of move at some point. I mean, you don't just shoot that music video and then not do anything.
No, yeah, they look like they've been there and done that. Yeah. Like, it wasn't anything new for them. So good for Stan. I mean, he's having one of the best seasons of his career, and he's doing well off the field.
I wonder if. Yeah, right. I wonder if the Royals have like a clubhouse meeting and just watch the video together too. Like,
yeah, that could be it. I was gonna say, like, the first time I watched it, there was some blood flow. Like, it was.
Yeah, absolutely. And Stanton, well, let's not sleep on Stanton as a good-looking dude either. I mean, that guy.
Yeah, but it's almost like if you saw one of your buddies like doing porn, it would automatically not be attractive. I'm like, that's Giancarlo Stanton. If it was just some random model, I could have got into it way more.
Made it move a little. Yeah. So that's Stan. I mean, the Royals definitely jacked off to that video by the sound of it. The GM's pissed. So that's the theory I'm sticking to. Giancarlo Stanton has 52 homers now. A little home run update for Giancarlo Stanton. I don't want to say slowing down because he's still hitting home runs at a pretty good pace, but it's like his August was so good. You have to imagine his September, he's going to slow down a little. But interesting thing here is that rosters expand in September. you're going to have some duds on the mound pitching to Giancarlo Stanton. So I'm very interested to see whether he takes advantage of that and goes off in September. If he cools off, I don't think it's going to be really an in-between. I think he's going to either be really hot or really cold in September. Not sure yet. He's at 52. I still think he gets 60 on the dot. I know I said 57 2 weeks ago. I just want to go with 60 because I want to see it happen. So I'm still going 60 on the dot here.
Yeah, like I said, Stan's hitting. He hit literally 80 this past week.
Right.
So all of his hits have been home runs. So at this point of the season, the Marlins are pretty much out of it. He's just settling and trying to hit bombs, which I don't fault him for at this point.
I would do the same thing. Honestly, I would do the same thing. He's chasing this like the Marlins, in all likelihood, aren't going to make it into the wild card game. So your consolation prize is getting that 60 home runs. And who knows, maybe in the winter he'll be moved too. So he's at this point, all he cares about is that home run mark, and I don't blame him. So back to your point about Hurricane Harvey, we talked about that. The relief efforts which were awesome. We also talked last week about how they had to play games in Tropicana Field. We knew that would be a disaster from the start. Attendance, I told you I would be curious what attendance is for this game. It was 3,500 people showed up. I forget who it was after the game who said, I think it was someone on the Rangers, said that it felt like a minor league game. Never mind minor leagues, probably felt like a high school game or like a big time high school game. Like a lot of people go to like a top, like 3,500 sounds like a high school championship matchup.
Yeah, I have a couple buddies that live in Tampa, and I've been down there. There's a lot better things to do than go to a baseball game between two teams you like have no affinity for. So it looked like the majority of fans were rooting for Houston, which was good. But yeah, you could like hear people yelling from the outfield. That's how like somber the mood was, and there was no one in there. So
terrible choice
by, I don't know if MLB decided it or Houston.
I think the original choice was to go to Arlington, Texas, where the Rangers are. And the Rangers straight up said no or something. Like they wouldn't host the game or something. I don't really know why. I don't know really the backstory with that. I know Lance McCullers on the Astros was pissed because he thought the Rangers were classless in some sort of way. I don't really know the story there, but I know there was some drama. Montreal offered to host the event, and that would have been awesome to see. Montreal is a destination where I hope the Tampa Bay Rays move to at some point. So that would have been cool.
Yeah, I mean, they would have sold it out for sure. They said they would have already sold out all the tickets if they had those games. I know it's like a longer flight for those teams. Like it's, all the way up near us, but it would have been great to bring baseball back to Montreal and at least create an environment, like a little bit of a baseball environment. I think the Rangers thing was they wanted to swap series. So they would play Texas and then sway in Houston, but Texas, quote unquote, thinks they're still in it, which they're not. But yeah, it's just rivalries, I think, at that point. But it's shitty because it is like a natural disaster they had no control over.
If I could pick a dud of the year and not a person, it's Tropicana Field. That would be like my dud of the year. So fuck Tropicana Field. One more thing on Hurricane Harvey is Matt Harvey pitched the first game in Houston after Hurricane Harvey, which is in itself a fucking bizarre thing that Matt Harvey pitched after Hurricane Harvey. But Matt Harvey sucks. That's basically what I'm trying. He's just not the same anymore, whether it be because of injuries, because of off the field stuff. I don't know. But Matt Harvey, he was a dud in this game against Houston. And apparently the Mets are going to pitch him on short rest, which is a questionable decision. I don't know. What do you think about this whole Harvey ordeal?
Yeah, I don't know what's rarer, Matt Harvey actually starting or him starting right after a hurricane named after him. It's just the fact that, and he got shelled, like you mentioned. I don't know what the Mets are doing. Like their season's over. If you see the lineup, go see the lineup they put out this being Monday. I mean, it's like a AAA lineup. So I don't know why they're like held to having Syndergaard come back as well. I just don't get it. Their season's over. They should just put these guys in ice and just, save it for next year.
Get Tebow on there. If you're going to put a lineup out like that, get Tebow, put asses in the seats. I don't know how many fucking times I have to say it. Jesus Christ, Mets, figure it out. Another guy who needs to figure it the fuck out is CC Sabathia. Shut up, dude. Whining about the Red Sox bunting. That was another dramatic thing from this past week. Eduardo Nunez put a bunt on Sabathia, which is a smart move because Sabathia can't move. Sabathia, if there's one thing he doesn't like to do, it's move. So We all know that. And Sabathia was pissed after the game because he said something along the lines of like, "Oh, you can tell what the Red Sox have over there because of guys bunting." What do you mean? What do you mean? Yeah, they have a team that's like 3.5, 4.5 games up in the division. That's what they have over there. So CC Sabathia whining. What else is new? What's your take on CC in this whole thing?
Yeah, he's always been a big baby his whole career, and it's not like Eduardo Nunez is a guy that just saved his bunt for CC Sabathia. He's like fast and he bunts.
Yeah,
Like if you can't field it, what puts it past him not to do that? Like we're trying to win the game, aren't we? He would
right.
take any competitive advantage he could. So why wouldn't Eduardo Nunez? I don't get it. It's pretty selective on his part.
I'm sure I think Yankee fans feel the same way too. They're like, they probably thought, CC, shut up and just field it, dude. I know I would have felt that way if it was a Red Sox pitcher complaining. Say David Price said, "Why are you bunting? Like that's Bush League." No, David Price, fucking field it and then stop bitching about it. So with CC and this whole thing, there was that. I know Nunez hit the home run the next day, which was awesome. No bunt there. He straight up hit a homer. But with CC and this whole thing, it just goes back to the Yankees and just how the kind of organization they are. I know as a Red Sox fan, I don't have much value saying that because, like it just feels like every week it's a new thing with the Yankees complaining and I'm fucking tired of it. And I know as a Red Sox fan, like you would expect me to say that, but it's true. Every week it's a new thing with the Yankees, whether it be CC, whether it be Gardner, whether it be Joe Girardi, someone, they're fucking complaining. And it's like so annoying. So that's my little rant. The Yankees got the better of the Red Sox last night, though, which is upsetting.
Yeah, are you worried at all about the Red Sox? They look pretty bad in the last two games.
Listen,
the Yankees.
I don't know what's going on with Sale. I know we have such high expectations from Sale for Sale at all times, and it wasn't like he was atrocious against the Yankees, but that's the type of game you want him to go out there and be shut down Sale like he always is. That was a big game on the road. And I'm not ready to panic about Sale by any means, but when you're going, it's the last month of the season. You want Sale to be dominant. Now he might not even be the Cy Young anymore because Kluber is fucking unreal. So, yeah, I don't know. I'm a little worried. The panic meter's slowly creeping up there for me.
Yeah. My worry, lies in the offense. I know they faced Severino last night. He's been unreal, but I'm so sick of watching runners in scoring position and then the Red Sox not getting the run in, whether Mookie Betts, pop. I feel like he's popped up in the infield like 5 times in that series. And Hanley Ramirez just looking like he's not interested. I just want to you want to finish strong, like you said, going into the playoffs. And it's just the same old shit with this team. I mean, we kind of got over the edge of them being earlier in the season, we said they weren't likable. And then they started winning, and we're like, oh, they're all of a sudden likable because they're winning. I still don't think they're very likable, but they just started winning. And I wouldn't hold my breath in the playoffs, especially if Sale's off his game even a little bit.
I think that's my biggest worry. Without Sale, the Red Sox aren't going anywhere. They need that anchor. They always have needed that anchor. And if Sale's not going to be that anchor, which sucks in the first place because we've been so high on Sale. And then if we go back to having a guy who just can't perform in the postseason, that's going to be a huge kick in the balls. I believe in him. I'm just a little bit worried. So with that being said, you talked about tanking last week. The Red Sox tanking because you don't want to face the Indians right now. I think they're on an 11 or 12 game win streak. And I said, no, that's stupid. Me and Graz both got on your case. I think Tuma was in there too, just ragging on you, saying it was a bad idea. I'm not ready to say that they should tank or anything along those lines. I still think that's far-fetched. But I'm more worried about the Indians now than I was last week. I'll definitely admit that. They look fucking awesome, even without Andrew Miller. I still think in a series without Andrew Miller, it's going to be an issue. That's a very important player to have in a series. So that could get iffy. But to say that you want them to be in the wild card game is crazy because the wild card game, anything can happen. And wild card game is the last thing I want my team to be in because it's the most stressful event, arguably, in sports.
No, I know I was laughed off, and it is. I mean, no one wants to be in the wild card game. I mean, it's a 1-game sudden death when you can at least have 3 shots.
Yeah.
That's how confident I am in the Red Sox. Like, that's how little I want to face the Indians. I will take our chances facing the let's say the Angels,
right,
in that wild card game, and Sale, I think, could shut them down. And I think those chances are better of winning that and then beating the Astros and beating the Indians. This Indians team, like, it's not just the Red Sox that they're beating too. I mean, they swept the Yankees, right? Like, they're beating good teams, and their pitching. I know they don't have Miller. Their starting pitching, I think, is when it's on its game. They're getting Salazar back this week too.
Fuck.
It's pretty scary, but I know what you guys are saying. Like, you don't want to take your chances in that wild card game, but the Indians scare the shit out of me.
Yeah, I'm getting a little worried about the Indians. I'll say that. And even the Astros now. Correa back. They got Verlander. They're a scary team too. I'm on the verge of thinking the Red Sox, unfortunately, might be the odd team out. I have confidence in this team. I do. But when you're comparing them to the Indians and the Astros, no matter what, you're going to have a difficult matchup. It's not going to be an easy road whatsoever.
Yeah, the craziest thing about the Indians is they have the most away wins in Major League Baseball. Like, that to me is a team that just is playoff ready. Like, they go on the road, they beat the crap out of you in front of your home fans, and then they take everything and leave. Like, that's how the Indians are built. It's like a Francona thing. They're just tough.
Yeah, we've seen the Red Sox get to Kluber though recently, so I'm not totally afraid of that. The pitching aspect, because then after that, who do they have going? Probably like Salazar, right? Say, for example, Carrasco or Salazar. They throw them out there, and I think the Red Sox can handle them too. And then you throw Bauer out there. The Red Sox offense, when it's firing on all cylinders, can handle the Indians. It's just a matter of, will they be hot or will they be the way they have been for the past week? How are they going to go into the postseason? Is it going to be with momentum, or are they going to be ice cold at the plate, which like they were last season? So I don't know. We'll see. It's going to be a tricky situation no matter what.
Yeah, for sure.
Another thing you said last week is Jonathan Scope being an AL MVP. This is my favorite story. If I could actually go back and pick favorite stories, it's just this whole Jonathan Scope storyline. No joke. I think you were first to the MVP conversation.
It's been building. It's been building like every show.
But you were first. You said AL MVP, not just last week. I think you said he should be in the conversation like a month ago. And now baseball experts on Twitter are tweeting out like, "Oh, sleeper AL MVP candidate Jonathan Scope, look out," because he's been on a fucking tear for the Orioles.
It was one. Let's hearken expectations. It was one writer who was an Orioles writer.
Oh, okay.
It was one Orioles writer. Like, I bet people think I like paid him to write that story just so I look backed up. But yeah, I mean, I don't look into the advanced stats that much, but I watch the highlights of every game, and Scope has had so many big hits this year. Like, I know you can't really quantify that. I know Fangraphs has like clutch hitting and all that good stuff, but Scope, he hit a walk-off the other day. He got on base. He scored the winning run in the game. I think it was yesterday. He just has these plays that they stick out in my mind that he's kind of pushing the Orioles to win games. You know, his stats may not be up there with the top guys in the AL MVP race, but he means a lot to his team, I guess is what I'm trying to say.
Let's just say Scope, while he might not win MVP, I'd like to apologize for thinking it was crazy that you would say Scope, because now it's like it's probably not going to happen, but it's something. He's going to get some MVP votes if he keeps it up, for sure. Like, there's no doubt in my mind he's going to have some votes, and we're absolutely going to update with like Jonathan Scope. We're going to probably send out a screenshot of the amount of votes he gets. We're going to be all over Jonathan Scope this month, and of course, awards don't come out till after the postseason, so we got a little bit of a wait, but still, it's worth keeping an eye on.
If he gets one vote, I'll feel vindicated. I mean,
vindicated. Yeah. Vindified. Yeah.
Vindified.
But no, yeah, I'm very excited about John. And the Orioles are a game and a half out now of the wild card. Just keep an eye out. Keep an eye out for Scope and the Orioles. They seem to have some sort of magic going on. Let's talk about some trades. This was the trade deadline. The waiver deadline officially passed, so now we're not going to see any trades from this point out. First, we got the Mariners getting Mike Leake. Not exactly. I mean, the Mariners probably aren't going to make the postseason. I don't know if this was their one last ditch effort to make the postseason. They needed pitching, no doubt. I mean, they had the worst rotation in the league, arguably. So getting Mike Leake helps, but it's not like, say we're going to get to Astros getting Verlander. It's not the same situation there where it's this game-changing move where it can make a huge impact down the stretch. Mike Leake had an ERA under 2 for the first 2 months, and now he has an ERA above 4. So that tells you all you need to know about Mike Leake lately.
He's the most average. Like when I think of average pitcher in the MLB, he's like the most average guy I could think of.
Yeah, he's just Joe Schmo, Mike Lake. Like he'll get you 6 innings pitched, 3-4 earned runs each start, and then like 4 strikeouts. Like he just does his job. I don't know. That's basically it. But the Mariners do need someone like that.
He barely does his job. Yeah,
Yeah.
Mike Leake.
he mails it in each time he takes the mound. That's pretty much it. Then you got the Cubs getting Leonis Martin, adding some outfield depth to that team. Cubs, they seem to make these under the radar additions that help down the stretch. So I kind of like this move. Martin's a guy with some talent, so I can't hate the Cubs for this move. Again, I don't think it's like a game changer, but anytime you add depth to a position where you kind of need it, it always pays off in the long run.
Yeah, he's got some pop too. And just the bigger kind of point on the trading deadline. Trades that happened after the actual trade deadline this year, speaking about, I feel like this year was way going on. I feel like in past years, nothing really happened after the trade deadline itself.
I was thinking that as all this shit was going down, the waiver deadline was more crazy than the non-waiver deadline this year. And I don't know if we've ever had a year like that. We probably have, and we just haven't like really realized it. I mean, we've been on top of things because of the podcast this year, so we're more in touch of everything going on. But the non-waiver deadline, the waiver deadline was better than the non-waiver deadline, and it's largely because of these trades that we're going to talk about now. First, starting with the Angels, they're in the wild card race. They're still my pick to make it. And I said it would be because Mike Trout put them on his shoulders, but now he has some help. He has Justin Upton out there who's having a pretty good year. You got leadership with Brandon Phillips too. So those are both very interesting additions. I think this is going to propel the Angels into that wild card spot against whether it be maybe the Yankees or the Twins or someone. And I think the Angels sneak their way in.
Yeah, I love teams that get aggressive like this. The Angels realize, let's take it. Getting Brandon Phillips, who's had a good season in the leadership. He's been in the postseason. And then Justin Upton, who's had seasons of his career, add some pop. If Justin Upton was available for cheap, like I'm not sure what the Angels had to give up. I would have loved the Red Sox to get him and just bench Hanley. He would have been perfect at Fenway Park.
Yeah, even just like a DH, throw Upton in the DH role and Ramirez, like maybe platoon at some points with Hanley. I would have liked that. So, of course, that didn't happen. The Angels took advantage of his availability, and it's going to pay off. I'm telling you, they got a nice middle of that lineup now. And you got like Cole Calhoun and like CJ Cron, however the fuck you say that guy's name. They both can hit, and they've been hitting lately. So if all those guys can put it together at the same time, look out for the Angels. The Astros were the highlight of the Angels were there too, but the Astros were the highlight of the trade deadline. Of course, they grabbed Verlander, which we've already mentioned. That's going to pay off. They needed that number 2 guy behind Keuchel, or else they weren't going to get anywhere. I'm much higher on the Astros now than I was previous to this Verlander acquisition because, Dallas Keuchel was pissed when they didn't get anyone at the deadline, and I felt for him. They should have done something then. They made up for it. They got a big name pitcher in Verlander, a guy with playoff experience, extensive playoff experience. So that's going to pay off down the road. They also got Cameron Maybin, which I don't think is, they didn't really need another outfielder, but the guy homered yesterday or 2 days ago. So he's already providing some pop.
Yeah, the Verlander trade was big for the Astros. Like you said, they had literally nothing behind Keuchel. And now you could argue Verlander, maybe is the game 1 starter just because of his postseason experience. His pedigree. The Astros, I felt for Keuchel as well. Like they had still had one of the best farm systems in baseball. It's like, all right, you're getting all these great prospects. At some point, you got to cash them in. You got to win now. And I think they finally did that here.
Yep, definitely.
Cameron Maybin too. Their outfielders are pretty injury prone. Springer's been on the DL. Reddick, is always getting hurt running into a wall or something. Yeah. So I think it's good insurance. So they don't have to fucking put out Jake Marisnick like every other day.
Yeah, that's very true. That's very true. So yeah, Astros are intriguing. We're starting to see how things are going to shape up roster wise. So we're getting to the good stuff now for sure in baseball. And I'm very, very excited about how things are going to go in September. Of course, we have, so what's today? Today is the 4th. So we're going to have four more regular season podcasts left for 2017, if I'm doing the math correctly. So 3 or 4. So I'm very excited about that. Let's get into segments. So we'll start with our favorite obscure players, power rankings. So these are just guys, random guys who, for whatever reason you've liked throughout baseball, who aren't particularly great players, but they're just guys who have just stuck with you for one reason or another. Let's start at number 5. Who's your number 5?
Yeah, so I picked some obscure players from the past that I've really liked, just random guys. Okay.
Me too.
My number 5 is Dontrelle Willis. He's not that obscure, but he was never that good.
In one unreal year, like unfucking real year.
That one year with the Marlins, I mean, everyone will remember that forever.
I must have reenacted, because I think I was only like 10 years old when he had that season or something. I was very young when he had that season. The amount of times I reenacted that windup, that high leg kick, oh my God, that's like, it's like his trademark move. Anyone who knows Dontrelle Willis, if you mention Dontrelle Willis to anyone, the first thing you think of is his delivery, which was electric.
Yeah, he understood that he was going to break down probably after 2 years, but he also understood that kids were going to be doing that to this day. So Dontrelle Willis is my number 5.
It just froze. Sorry. Where do you leave off?
I just said Dontrelle Willis is my number 5.
Okay. My number 5 is a guy, I don't even know if you've heard of him, because the only reason I know about him is because I'll get to that in a second. It's Rondell White. Do you know who Rondell White is?
Yes, black guy.
Yeah, well, yeah, Rondell. I mean, it speaks for itself. Rondell White, he played 1 year with the Yankees, and that 1 year he was on the Yankees. I've mentioned this a million times before. Old video games are a nostalgic thing for me with baseball. And I was doing a franchise with the Yankees. And Rondell White, he was never a great player, ever. He was like always eh.
He had some pop.
He had a little bit of pop. So I think it was All-Star Baseball 2002 or 2003. I don't know about the year, but it was one of those. And I was Rondell White in my franchise mode. The guy hit like 60 homers for me. And I'm like, this guy, he had an electric stance too. I was a huge Rondell White fan. I might have even been a Yankee fan for that 1 year because I had a Yankees franchise going. So that's just a nostalgic thing for me. Shout out Rondell White, number 5.
Yeah, sneaky thing about Rondell White is he was in the Mitchell report, so like no one cared.
That's why he hit 60 for me, 60 home runs for me in that game, because he was fucking doing roids.
What difficulty were you playing on where you're hitting 60 long balls?
I mean, I was like 10 years old. I was probably playing on fucking beginner. Like, I probably didn't even know what I was doing.
Yeah, Rondell White, I do remember him. My number 4 is, I think he played for the Braves for a while. I think he also played for the Angels. Rafael Furcal.
Oh, fuck. Right. He's on my list, and I'm going to get to him later. But yes, Rafael Furcal.
God, he was electric. Like, he's the definition of an electric player.
Yeah. And he was never,
he was
again,
like Ozzie Smith.
Another guy who was never just, he's never going to be in the Hall of Fame consideration or anything like that, but he was a good, just a very rock solid player. I loved watching him play.
Yeah, I think the Red Sox were linked with him once, and I was like, God, we need this guy as our shortstop. Yeah. He's unreal.
Yeah, I think that was around the time Edgar Renteria. They got Edgar Renteria, and I think Furcal at one point was an option. I would have liked that. We'll just say that. My number 4 is a guy who I thought was the next big thing in baseball at one point, Khalil Green from the Padres. Shortstop with the long golden locks. And I thought he was the next big thing. He was not. He was definitely not. He was very subpar of a player. Did not last long. I think he had a few highlight reel plays at shortstop. Like every now and then he'd chime in with a highlight reel play. Other than that, the guy was a non-factor. But you know what? The memory of him still sticks in my mind. The name Khalil Green in itself is a great name, but combining the name with the long blonde hair and just he was awesome at shortstop, in my opinion. He was not actually good, but for me, he was good.
I don't think there's ever been a player in Major League history that looked like the prototypical guy you'd find in that city than Khalil Green in San Diego. When I think of San Diego, I'm like Khalil Green.
Yep, definitely.
My number 3 is a pitcher. I think he played for the Red Sox one of his last years of his career. He had one of the craziest windups. He had one of those old school like over the head ones.
Okay.
Paul Bird.
Paul, that guy. I like forgot he existed. That was around the time of like Brad Penny and shit, I think. But I might be getting the years wrong. But I think that's around the same
Yeah,
time.
the Red Sox were bringing in all these like guys that used to be really good, and now they're like way past their prime.
Paul Bird.
He had a couple good years for the Phillies, and then he went to this old school windup, and his career kind of fell apart. But just a journeyman. I loved his windup because he did it differently. Like everyone pretty much had the same windup, and he went old school.
Paul Bird's a great pick. I didn't even think of him, but I kind of wish I did. My number 3 is Jock Jones. Do you remember Jock Jones? This guy, another rock solid player. He was the guy who I'd always picked to lead off in games. He was never really great, but he was just a contact guy. He would get on base. Like he was very under the radar, but he, again, succeeded in doing his job. That was the kind of guy Jock Jones was.
Yeah, he had one of the sweetest swings, like a real nice lefty swing. My number 2, I mean, some consider this guy a Hall of Fame candidate, Paul Konerko.
Okay.
He's not really obscure, but I just love the way he played the game. Like, I don't think I've ever heard him talk, but he would just crush baseballs.
Bring your lunch pail to work. That's the kind of guy that Paul Konerko was.
Yeah, like just shut up and hit the ball and just come to the ballpark every day and cash the check. Paul Konerko.
And a World Series champ, so you can't take that away from him either. Paul Konerko is a good pick. My number 2 is Tony Womack. Tony Womack,
I remember him,
does not get enough credit for being the electric factory that he was. Tony Womack is another guy who I think every time I see his name, I get a little bit of excitement because I just remember all these memories associated with Tony Womack. His name itself is awesome. Womack, you don't forget that name. So Tony Womack is my number 2.
When I think of Tony Womack, I think of Quentin McCracken, who's like the same kind of player.
Yep.
There's 2 little small second basemen who not. So my number 1 is a pitcher. This guy was a closer for the Mets for a long time. He was like 5'10", but just threw like 100 miles an hour. Billy Wagner.
Billy fucking Wagner. Yeah.
He had legitimately no control. He would just throw 100 miles an hour and hope it got over the plate.
Yep.
And you got to love a guy like that. Just doesn't care. Have no regard for the strike zone.
Back then, he was so good. And now if he pitched in today's game, he'd be so bad. He'd be a poor man's Chapman. Worse control than Chapman, around the same velocity. Back then, having that velocity was so like new. Like no one really had that. And now it seems like a lot of pitchers have it. So he wouldn't succeed today, but back then he was like it was amazing watching him pitch.
He had like I think he had a Rick Ankiel moment where like he just couldn't throw a strike and then he just retired.
Rick Ankiel would have been a good pick too.
Yeah, Rick Ankiel, former outfielder too.
Yeah.
Reinvented his career.
My number 1, as you might have predicted, is Rafael Furcal. You pretty much.
That's insane that we both picked him.
I know. That just goes to show how awesome he was. Furcal, while we're on the whole like video game nostalgia thing, MVP baseball 2005. Rafael Furcal was on every one of my teams. He was just so awesome, and he was never the player that you would pick first, from a talent standpoint, but he was just the kind of guy you wanted on your team. He kind of did it all. So Rafael Furcal, shout out. Would love to have him on the show.
Yeah, I was about to ask you, what do you think Rondell White is up to right now?
Dude, I don't know. Maybe he's just lifting weights, still taking roids, just at the gym right now. I don't know. What do you think Rondell White's doing on Labor Day? Like just grilling up a nice steak.
Yeah, I hope so.
I hope so too. All right, so we'll move on from that to top 5 teams, power ranking these top 5 teams. Now, as we're heading into the postseason soon. So power rankings, September. This is our last power rankings before the postseason. Let's start at number 5. I'll start. The Arizona Diamondbacks. They're red hot. You can make arguments for other teams, of course, but the Arizona Diamondbacks, the way that they've been playing lately, combined with the fact that, they just swept the Dodgers, who I think we'll get to them in a little bit. We'll just say that. But the Diamondbacks, look out. That's all I'm going to say. They're a sleeper in the NL, and they're going to be a problem in the postseason. I'll tell you that.
Yeah, I had the D-backs too. I think we totally agree on them being a team, one of the teams to beat. I honestly like their offense a little bit better than the Dodgers. The Dodgers probably have the edge pitching wise, but they're definitely going to be a tough tough out in that wild card game if our Colorado Rockies end up making it.
If anyone is going to place bets on a team for the World Series, I think the Diamondbacks value-wise are an awesome pick.
Yeah. That is a good bet to make.
Like a really fucking good pick. And I don't know what the odds are, but I know that they're going to be one of the lower odds out of any team that makes it, only because they're a wild card team, and in the end, they're just for the Arizona Diamondbacks. So just if you're going to place bets, think about it. Look at the odds. Look at the value there. I think you'll have nice value while we're talking about the Diamondbacks. My number 4 is the Houston Astros. We talked about, I think they would have been lower on this list. I don't even know if they would have cracked the top 5 if it weren't for the acquisition of Justin Verlander. I think that makes them a much scarier team come postseason time. I no longer think they're the best team in the AL. I would have thought that a few weeks ago, but not anymore. They do have Correa back, though, too. So anytime you can just get Correa back and Verlander into that rotation, you become a much, much scarier team. I got them at number 4.
Yeah, that's a good one. I totally agree. They wouldn't have been in my top 5 if they didn't make that Verlander trade, which is insane from the first part of the season. I have the Nationals. I want to be higher on the Nationals, but they're just a block team to me. Like, they have the pitching, they have the lineup. I just don't see it coming together at the playoff time. The Nationals just don't do it for me right now. I could even see them out of my top 5 when the playoffs start. Yeah,
absolutely. My number 3 is the Boston Red Sox. They're if they keep this up, they're going to fall maybe even out of the top 5. We'll see how the rest of their September goes. But right this second, I got them at number 3. The thing is with the Red Sox is we get the opportunity to kind of tune into every single game. So we know all of their weaknesses. We know all of their strengths. We know way more bad stuff about the Red Sox than we do about the Astros and the Diamondbacks. We're able to really hold on to the negatives with the Red Sox. So I didn't really want to hold that against them. I'm still going to give them 3 over the Astros and the Diamondbacks. But if they keep this shit up, they're going to slide real quick.
Yeah, I'd like to announce the Red Sox aren't in my top 5. So
interesting.
They have to prove something to me. Yeah. By the way, the Diamondbacks are plus 2,800 to win the World Series.
Woo!
I mean, that's maybe a lock.
I might have to fucking bet that.
That's a lot.
Wow. Yeah. Okay. I mean, they do have to win the wild card game. So if you're going to bet at any point, I think you have to put the money now because those odds are going to change if they win the wild card game for sure.
Yeah, it's 100 to win almost $3,000. I mean, it's 1,400 to win the NL pennant. So that's still decent value there.
Still good value. Yeah. Wow. Holy shit. Okay. Well, that's something to think about once we end this podcast. I might have to place a little bet on that. Okay. So number 3, I had Red Sox. Who's your number 3?
Speed, power. What'd you say?
Who's your number 3?
I must have been frozen. My number 3 is the Astros, like you said.
Okay.
Getting Verlander is huge. Their lineup's diverse, speed, power, can do a bunch of different things. Can steal bases, which is kind of a fallen thing in this MLB. So I like the Astros 3. That Verlander move kind of put them over the top for me.
I'm going to go out on a limb and say we both have the same one too. Let's find out. My number 2 is the Cleveland Indians. Just the run that they're on right now it speaks for itself. I think 11-game win streak is where they're at. So that, along with the fact they likely have the best pitcher in the AL with Corey Kluber, they have it all going for them right now. Still not afraid of them in a series, but I think I'd be, put it this way, when the Red Sox went into the postseason last year, the confidence was sky high and they got swept. I was like, oh, they're going to breeze past Cleveland into the ALCS or whatever the fuck they were in. And it wasn't even going to be a problem. And it was a problem. So,
yep.
Yeah, I don't want to say I'm more confident now, but I'm just not scared without Andrew Miller. Not yet.
So I think we'll just have ours flip-flop. I have the Dodgers at 2 just because to me they're still very young and inexperienced, and I could see them having some base running blunder or doing something stupid in the playoffs. They don't really have anyone that's done it on the big stage. I mean, Kershaw's their best player, and I mean, he's historically known for not being as good in the playoffs. So until someone from their team steps up and they win a series, I can't put them 1. They are 2, so I think they're the second favorite here, but I just can't put them 1 yet. They have the best record. They have leaders in all these stats. I just can't put them 1 until I see it.
Man, the Dodgers aren't having an easy time winning people over. They're going to win over 100 games this year, and people still don't believe just because of their track record. I do have them at number one. I think their regular season success this year is just, for me anyways, it's impossible to not have them as number one on my power rankings. That being said, I mean, this getting swept by the Diamondbacks and shit, and it's just a bad omen for what's going to happen come the end of the season and postseason and all that shit. So I'm a little worried about them. Not ready to have them slide down my power rankings or anything, but there's reason to worry. I'll say that, but they're still the best team in baseball. I think it's impossible to say that they're not, judging off their regular season success as a whole. So those are our power rankings. We'll be sure to, come postseason time, give a little bit update of who our favorites are as we head into the playoffs. Let's leave off, as always, with duds, and then we're going to skip Don't Call It a Comeback this week. I think we might have to retire Don't Call It a Comeback for the rest of the year. We're in September. No time for comebacks. It's all about whether you're good or whether you're not. So that's what dud and when you're hot, You're hot is all about. Let's start with duds. You can go first.
So my dud is Pablo Sandoval. Clearly a dud.
Ding, ding, ding. Matt Strom Award goes to Pablo Sandoval this week.
21 at-bats, no hits. Dud. Terrible. I can't believe the Giants took him back. I want to see this guy out of the major leagues. He's an embarrassment.
Yeah, you summed it up. Pablo Sandoval is my dud of the week. When you go 0 for 21 for the week, I mean, you're going to get on this list like 10 times out of 10.
But think of it, like no one's talking about that. If he was in Boston, it'd be like the biggest story in the country. That's the difference in like the media and how people cover it.
Definitely. I bet in San Francisco, they're still like, oh, Panda.
Yeah, exactly.
Panda.
And he loves that. He loves that.
Yeah. So we should have seen that from a mile away when he was coming to Boston. But you live and you learn. My when you're hot this week is a guy from the Orioles. It's not Jonathan Scope, because I think we're already accustomed to him being hot at this point. It's Wellington Castillo. Do we have another one that's the same?
Yeah, we have the Rhys Hoskins Award.
The first ever episode where both the Matt Strom Award and the Rhys Hoskins Award have been given out. That's awesome.
The first time. That's the first time.
That's awesome. I love that. I can't wait to hand out Graz's handmade Rhys Hoskins trophy to Wellington Castillo. Oh, my God. I almost want to rename it to the Wellington Award, but I can't do that. It's already the Rhys Hoskins Award. So
the Rhys Hoskins Award and the Matt Strom Award.
Yeah, but Castillo, 12 for 24, having a much different week than Pablo Sandoval. 500 batting average. I mean, that's, again, we talk about Sandoval with a 0 batting average getting you on this list 10 times out of 10. When you bat 500 for a week, that'll get you on the list more often than not. 4 homers, too, to go along with it. 1562 OPS, which the Orioles, when they have guys like Wellington Castillo hitting this well, you got to watch out, because they got him along with Scope, along with Chris Davis, along with Manny Machado. I mean, that's murderer's row. If they all keep it up. I mean, I don't expect Wellington Castillo to keep it up, but if he's hot, they're going to be a problem. They're 1.5 games out of the wild card race. So Orioles are a team to watch as we move forward.
Yeah, I mean, you look at his stats, he's honestly one of the best hitting catchers in the MLB. That's kind of sad given like the state of catchers in MLB, but a note for those kids. I mean, Wellington Castillo and Pablo Sandoval have probably the same body type, but if you hit, no one talks about your weight. Like if you're a good hitter, so keep hitting. Be a good hitter, and no one will talk about your weight. So,
and that's
note to Pablo.
Some sage advice from Zach as we sign off on the podcast. All right, so I'm excited to see how September goes. It's the very beginning of September now. Roster's just expanded. We got all this shit going on. It's going to be fun. So on that note, by the way, shout out Graz. We didn't even mention Graz once. We acted like he didn't exist. I'm sorry, Graz. Graz couldn't make it. I wish he could have, because we talked a lot of Red Sox Yankees stuff, but hope Graz is out there fucking hammered on Labor Day. I really hope that's what he's doing right now. So yeah,
I'm sure Graz will make up for not being on this podcast on the next one. I'm sure he'll make up for it.
Graz, that's another thing. We're missing out on the one last thing from Graz. We don't have a little Graz take to sign off with, which is unfortunate. Not as much electricity on this podcast as usual. And Graz Graz does a lot. He's been doing a lot the last month or so. So shout out Graz.
Yep.
On that note, subscribe on iTunes, leave a 5-star review. We'll read it on the show. Follow us on Twitter at Eephus Pod. We're going to be very active on there with all the stuff that's about to go down this month. That's for sure. And throughout the postseason. So be sure to follow us on Twitter at Eephus Pod and do the same on Instagram at Eephus Pod. Same thing there. Like us on Facebook. And as always, Zach, we'll end it there. We'll see you guys later.
Peace.